Hi, my name is Robert Shelley, Chelle Law, and my law firm assists professionals with employment contract issues. Today I'm going to talk about whether a professional can negotiate after signing a letter of intent. In short, yes, obviously you can. So let's talk about what kind of a letter of intent is and maybe the differences between that and an employment contract, and then areas of negotiation after that. So a letter of intent, also called an offer letter, is just simply a brief letter that kind of outlines the main terms of the employment relationship. So normally it would be the term of the agreement, so how long it lasts, if there's some kind of without cause termination, what the notice requirement is, any kind of compensation details, so base salary, maybe some kind of productivity, commission-based, net collections. Those details will be in there. Maybe a brief description of the benefits, so health, vision, dental, life, disability, retirement, that type of thing. And then if there's any restrictive covenants, so if there's a non-compete, a non-solicit, something like that. And then if they're a healthcare provider, if there's kind of what malpractice insurance is offered, and then if they have to pay for tail insurance. So there's just kind of a brief description of the main points of the contract. And so the employer, if they do make the professional sign a letter of intent in advance, wants to get those locked in prior to offering an employment contract. Many employers will just go straight to the employment contract. Maybe they'll have a brief discussion with the potential employee about, all right, here's what we're thinking for all of those things. And then if there is some kind of verbal agreement from the professional that says, yeah, I'm okay with those. So let's move forward with an employment agreement. And then the employer will then present the employment agreement, and then negotiation can't take place. So if you have reached agreement on the terms of an offer letter or a letter of intent, you certainly can negotiate once you receive the employment contract for a number of reasons. So if the offer letter briefly describes the terms of the employment relationship, when you see the actual language, many times it can completely change, kind of what you were expecting. So for instance, if it simply says, there will be a non-compete in the agreement, doesn't give the description, and then when you read the terms of the non-compete, and instead of expecting maybe a 1-year non-compete with a 10-mile radius, it's a 3-year non-compete with a 50-mile radius. So that can substantially change, whether an offer is worth it or not. And many times, if there is some kind of really bad, language in the agreement, it can shift the compensation as well. So for instance, let's say a professional is okay making $200,000 a year, but then they have these really bad restrictive covenants after the contract ends, then 200 may not be worth it for them. So maybe they'll say, look, if I'm going to accept these restrictive covenants, then I need more compensation during the year to make it worthwhile for me. So although you've made a decision and reached an agreement on the terms of the offer letter, it doesn't mean that you can't go back to the employer unless it specifically states in the offer letter of the letter of intent that it is binding, which very rarely would that happen. Normally that would only happen in maybe like an academic position. You're free to negotiate all the way up until signing the employment agreement. Now, it may tick off the employer that you agreed to essential terms, and then after the fact, you came back at them and say, I know we agreed to this, but we need to revisit this. However, no professional wants to enter into an employment relationship where they're unhappy with the terms. So I find it's much better to risk ticking off the employer with terms that are favorable to the employee versus just accepting an agreement that you're unhappy with. And usually that's going to spiral. So let's just say, all right, well, I agreed to terms in the offer letter. maybe it does change once I read the actual employment agreement. And then at that point, I'm like, I don't want to go back to them. I'm just stuck with it. Well, you're going to have, or at least you likely will have, at least some kind of negative attitude that spills over once you begin with the employer. And maybe you're always thinking, I'm underpaid, or, oh, this non-compete is really bad, or the benefits are below what I was expecting. So even if you risk the employer maybe being annoyed by continued negotiation, the professional is absolutely free to continue, and they should. Now, if it's a reasonable offer and the salary is good, the bonus structure is good, and then you just continuously come back to the employer asking for more and more, at some point they're just going to yank the offer and move elsewhere. That's always kind of a consideration when I'm talking to a professional about negotiating a contract is, all right, yes, we want to ask for more, but it needs to be reasonable. If you're asking for just like insane increases in certain things, many times I can just tell the professional, look, that if you come back at them with these things, they're going to say no, and it's likely they're going to yank the offer as well, just because you're coming off as so unreasonable. So it's good to know kind of what the industry standards are in all of those terms. That way, when you do ask for the increases, you have some backing of, well, these are the industry standards in this. And so if you don't want to meet the industry standard, then I'm going to move on to a better opportunity. So in short, yes, you can negotiate after signing a letter of intent or an offer letter. And in fact, you probably should, if once you read the language of the employment agreement, it changes, the opportunity. So if you have any questions, you can always contact my law firm at the phone number listed below in the description. Or you can always reach us through our website, chellelaw.com. That's CHELLE law.com. Appreciate you watching the video. Thanks.